Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS NFL Week 7. We're on to Sunday. Apologies for this morning. I've done the show on 2 hours sleep before. I've done that college football morning show on 2 hours of sleep. It feels like dozens of times. I can usually handle it. My body just wasn't having it. Must have slept through everything. So apologies for that. As far as the day, my streak of profitable college football weeks comes to an end. It's crazy because I started off the day 0-4, so I was like, oh, this is over. This is going to be a bloodbath. Actually battled back. I had a nice afternoon and won a couple bets at night. Still fell short. I needed the Tennessee-Alabama game to go over. The way that game ended was crazy. Like crazy that it didn't go over. And then I needed UCLA to get over as well. So fell a couple bets short. Fun day of college football, though. Saw some cool games. We're on to NFL coming into today with a little bit of a head start. Got the Bengals on Thursday. Had a nice NFL week last week. So hopefully the momentum from last week carries over. Going to get through as many games as I can. Hopefully I'll be able to get to them all. We'll see. Let's do it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. All right, Rams, Jags overseas. Obviously, you got the 9:30 a.m. start. They seem pretty comfortable at 3 in this one because we've been sitting at a flat 3 for several days now. We're now up to 75K limits, still sitting at the same 3. So let's talk about this matchup. I know we got our Rams -7 bets last week. They did win. They did cover. They won by 2 touchdowns, and you don't want to scoff at a 2-touchdown road win in the NFL. I got to say it was a bit shaky, though. And that makes 2 games in a row where this Rams team has looked a little bit shaky. You got the loss to Mac Jones on Thursday Night Football. And then, look, they were struggling with the Ravens. That was a sweat to win that -7. It's not that the offense was bad. They were moving the ball, sustaining drives. They just couldn't finish in the red zone. And that's starting to become a pattern here with this Rams offense. Last week on the road at Baltimore, 5.5 yards per play, success rate over 51%. And they're coming into this game against Jacksonville a little bit hobbled on the offensive side of the ball. No Havenstein at right tackle. Puka Nacua is also going to miss this game. Now, the Jags defense is also missing a starter, Devin Lloyd, one of their inside linebackers. He's going to miss this game. But this Jags team has played pretty solid defense against the run this year outside of one game. I mean, they got run on in the Chiefs game. Outside of that, in their other 5 games, they're allowing 3.75 yards per carry, 27.3% success rate per rush. They've been great against the run. Outside of that one game against Kansas City, which I believe was a Monday Night Football game. Now, we do have to mention they haven't seen a ton of dangerous rushing attacks. I mean, you got the Panthers in there, the Bengals, the Texans, the 49ers, the Seahawks. So it's not like they've seen a bunch of teams that run the ball, but I think we have enough of a sample size where we have to respect this Jacksonville defensive front. This is not a bad defensive front 7 at all. And look, the Rams' run game has been good, but struggling to run the ball last week on the road in Baltimore against what is probably the worst defensive front 7 in the NFL right now. I mean, not overall, but the current state of the Baltimore Ravens. The secondary got some pieces back. The Ravens secondary is actually in decent shape, but that Ravens front 7 is terrible right now with all those injuries. And they were held to 3.6 yards per carry, just 76 yards rushing in the game. So coming off that one, no Nacua, missing a piece on the offensive line, I think the Rams might struggle to run the ball here overseas. Keep in mind, this is like a home game for the Jags. They always play overseas. They got a lot of fans over there. On top of that, when it comes to Matt Stafford, we know Jacksonville's been living in zone coverage this year. The new DC Campanile came out and said they would be living in zone coverage, and that's why they traded Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome at corner because it's a better fit. And that's what we've seen so far this year, 79.7% zone coverage frequency. Matt Stafford's got much better numbers against man. In fact, against zone coverage, against 2 high safeties, Matt Stafford's numbers don't look all that great. And missing Puka Nacua, maybe the Jags could play some good defense in this game. And what is, I would assume they would have more of a home field advantage here at Wembley than the Rams would have. On the other side of the ball, this is where the advantage swings way back towards the Rams side because this Jags offense hasn't been very good, and they're kind of coming crashing back down to earth here. On the season, they're 23rd in success rate, 17th in EPA per play. The Rams have been a top 10 defense all year. I'm really not sure if we can count on the Jags to run the ball in this game. If you remember, the Jags were running the ball earlier in the season. In the last 3 games, 4.4 yards per carry isn't bad, but success rate down close to 36%. The Rams' run defense, I mean, it's been good, not excellent. I mean, 3.8 yards per carry, 113 yards per game allowed. That's in their last 3. So really not sure if I expect Jacksonville to run the ball in this game. So I guess the question becomes, do we trust Trevor Lawrence to have himself a good game? Well, let's give him some credit. He has been significantly better. I'm not going to say Trevor Lawrence has been good. I will say he has been significantly better. You look at the numbers from his first 3 games here against Carolina, Cincinnati, and Houston, 70.5 passer rating. He struggled under pressure, struggled with a clean pocket, just ugly-looking numbers here. In his last 3 games, it doesn't look nearly as bad. Again, I'm not going to go as far to say he's been playing well, but he's been playing significantly better in his last 3 games. And it's not like the defenses got easier. I mean, he saw Seattle, Kansas City, San Francisco, so it's not like he saw easy defenses or anything. So Trevor Lawrence does seem to be playing better. And, man, Trevor Lawrence overseas. This is the king of Europe right here. Obviously, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, but very experienced playing overseas games. He's played 6 of them. He's 4-2 in overseas games, including 3-1 in this stadium in Wembley. So Trevor Lawrence has had success playing these games. I'm not going to pretend like shit's sweet here for Jacksonville's offense. Obviously, the Rams' pass rush is going to be a problem. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL generating pressure. Trevor Lawrence has done a great job handling it. So I'm not going to pretend like I love the matchup for Trevor Lawrence or anything like that. I'm leaning towards the Jags, but I can't say there's any edge here. I think 3 is pretty perfect, and it seems like everybody in the market agrees because this number isn't moving. So I might end up betting the Jags, but probably just doing some gambling because it's a standalone game. We've seen some lower scoring games in Wembley. I know the last one played, I think there was 48. But if you look at the last 6-7 years or whatever, the games at Tottenham tend to be higher scoring, and the games at Wembley tend to be lower scoring. So I lean towards an under, but give me Jags +3. Raiders are in a tough one here. They're on the road at Arrowhead. But before we go and lay the big number with the Chiefs, we should probably point out that the Raiders have played the Chiefs tough in their last 3 matchups. In their last 3 games against the Chiefs, all 3 of them have been within 1 score. In fact, their last 2 trips to Arrowhead, I think I messed up this graphic. I think that the Raiders won 20-14. Yeah, this graphic is messed up. The Raiders won 20-14. So the Raiders' last 2 trips to Arrowhead, they lost 19-17, and the year before that, they won 20-14. So the Chiefs have actually had some problems with the Raiders. The Raiders have been able to play the Chiefs tough in recent matchups. The Raiders are actually 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 matchups against the Chiefs. So keep that in mind. Now, the matchup on this side of the ball, the Raiders offense against the Chiefs defense, it's pretty ugly. This Raiders offense certainly isn't good, but neither is the Chiefs defense. And you would think, hey, the Chiefs started winning some games. The Chiefs as a whole look better, but the defense really doesn't. I mean, the defense actually seems to be trending in the wrong direction. It's the offense that seems to be figuring it out. On their last 3 games, the Chiefs are allowing 6.5 yards per play, 52.9% success rate. Look, they played Baltimore before the injuries, Jacksonville, Detroit. So, I mean, they played some tougher offenses, but the point I'm making is the Chiefs team as a whole seems to be coming around, not so much the defense. So this Chiefs defense has some issues right now. It doesn't look all that strong. The thing is, I don't know if I trust this Raiders offensive line to generate any push and take advantage of this. I mean, the Chiefs have been struggling against the run. It looked like the Raiders were kind of getting it going on the ground a little bit. Genty broke a couple of big plays in the Bears game. And if you look at the rushing numbers from those 2 games, they look pretty good on paper. But if you watch that Bears game, I mean, the Raiders offensive line was getting blown off the ball. Genty broke a couple of big plays, and I feel like those rushing numbers are a little padded, and it doesn't matter because we saw them come crashing down to earth last week. They couldn't run the ball on the Titans. So I don't think this Raiders offensive line is good at all. I don't think this run game is good at all. And they're coming into this one in Arrowhead. They're still missing Colton Miller, who's their best offensive lineman. Most likely not going to have Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers is even injured and listed as questionable. So yeah, this Raiders offense is in a bit of a predicament. The idea of trusting Geno Smith against Spagnola's blitz packages and against the Chiefs pass rush, it's honestly terrifying. We know Geno Smith has had his problems so far this year. I will say, if you are looking to take the big number with the Raiders, you can point at the fact that this game is on the road, and Geno Smith has actually been significantly better on the road so far this year. You look at his numbers at home against the Chargers, the Bears, the Titans. 67.2 passer rating. His numbers under pressure are terrible. Yeah, he's been bad in his 3 home games. You look at his numbers on the road. I mean, what were his 2 best games? The New England game in the opener. He also played well in the Washington game. I know the Raiders got killed, but it's because Washington scored 42 points. Geno Smith actually threw 3 touchdowns in that game. So Geno Smith's best games so far this year have been his road games. And if I remember correctly, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm pretty sure Geno Smith was much better on the road last year with Seattle as well. So maybe Geno Smith is kind of a road warrior. I suppose that's an angle you can play. As a whole, the current state of the Raiders' offensive line, the way they're getting blown off the ball with no Brock Bowers, I don't have a ton of faith in the Raiders' offense. I think Spagnuolo is going to be sending blitzes at Geno. I don't trust him under pressure at all. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the Raiders' offense. Maybe Gentry can break a big play, but no, I think they're going to struggle to move the ball in this one. On the other side of the ball, this is where we get to the strength of both these teams. The Chiefs' offense, top 5 in the NFL. The Raiders' defense has been secretly good, especially against the run. The Raiders had a solid run defense last year also, by the way, and they kept Patrick Graham at DC, so that's carried over. The Raiders are actually a pretty solid run defense. So this is the marquee matchup here, the Chiefs' offense against the Raiders' defense. Other than that one Washington game, which was such a bullshit scheduling spot where the Raiders played a Monday night game and then had to fly across the country in a short week to play a Washington team that was coming off a Thursday night game. It was very unfair, honestly. And so they got run on in that game against Washington. But in their other 5 games, they're allowing just 3.5 yards per carry, under 75 rushing yards per game. So this Raiders run defense has to be respected. They do have a good run defense. The problem is not only are the Chiefs a pass-first offense, but Patrick Mahomes seems to be getting better and better as the season progresses. I mean, his last 3 games were far better than his first 3 games, and each one has been better than the previous one. So Mahomes seems to be getting really comfortable. And on top of that, Rashee Rice is back. This graphic says back from injury. I don't have a back from suspension graphic. So Rashee Rice is back from suspension. They are going to be missing Josh Simmons at left tackle. Which is obviously a problem when you're dealing with Max Crosby and the Raiders pass rushers. But the Raiders pass rush actually hasn't been all that great this year. Now, pass rush, evaluating a pass rush, it doesn't always reflect on paper because the timeliness is so important. A pass rush could be kind of silent, then make a big play on 3rd down. And so these numbers don't necessarily mean the Raiders pass rush is bad, but the Raiders pass rush as a whole hasn't been that dominant this year, and Mahomes is a guy who gets the ball out quickly anyway. So yeah, I think the number's warranted. I know the Raiders have played the Chiefs tough the last 3 times, but maybe they get caught playing with their food a little bit. But I honestly think the Chiefs will win comfortably. I think Geno could throw a couple picks. I'm not betting this one, but it would only be Kansas City by 2 touchdowns. Dolphins, Browns in Cleveland. The Browns are short favorites. This one actually got up to a full 3, but it looks like the Dolphins got hit at 3 at 30K limits. We're now sitting back at 2.5. So let's go ahead and get into this one. I suppose the lead story would be the weather. It's supposed to be nasty weather in this one. 100% chance of precipitation. Gusts of wind north of 20 miles an hour. Thunderstorms possible. This is going to be a nasty one weather-wise. I actually placed this bet before I knew that. I placed it at open, or when the market reopened, I should say. But yeah, nasty weather. You would think the weather favors the Browns, but who really knows with this kind of stuff? So obviously, we're dealing with 2 football teams who are not very good. The fact that this game is at home in Cleveland is huge for me because, I don't trust that Dolphins offense at all away from Hard Rock. Let's talk about the Browns offense first. Some good news. Obviously, the Browns are coming off back-to-back losses, but they are starting to run the ball a little bit in their last 2 games, 4.2 yards per carry, 45.4% success rate per rush. So the run game might be coming around a little bit for the Browns. Now, I know there's some issues on the offensive line here. DeJuan Jones is on the IR. Jack Conklin listed as questionable. Not sure if he's going to play. He did participate in practice, so we'll see. Cam Robinson is the 3rd tackle. He is going to play, though. So Cam Robinson's going to be out there. But here's the thing with this Miami defense. First of all, it's probably the worst run defense in the NFL, either them or Dallas. So Cleveland's run game seems to be coming around. They just played the Steelers and the Vikings. Now they're at home against the Dolphins. They just played the Steelers and Vikings. One game was in Europe, and the other game was in Pittsburgh coming off a bye. So now they get a home game against the Dolphins defense. Cleveland might be able to run the ball in this game. Just to give you an idea how bad this Dolphins defense has been against the run. In their last 4, they're allowing 6.6 yards per carry, 184 rushing yards per game. That's against Buffalo, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Chargers. If it was just the Bills, okay, but like these are not powerhouse offenses that should be gashing you on the ground. This Dolphins run defense straight up isn't good. And look, the concern with the Browns offensive line is that offensive tackles, right? They're missing the left tackle. The right tackle may not play. So that's where the concerns are for the Browns offensive line, offensive tackles. And you would think that's a big deal because probably the strength of this Dolphins defense is their edge rushers. Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, they have edge rushers. So, oh man, the Browns offensive tackles, the Dolphins edge rushers, that's a problem. And I see how you can think that. Here's the thing. How many 7-step drops are we expecting Dillon Gabriel to take in this game? It might be 0. He's gotten the ball out really fast. Stefanski has him getting the football out of his hands fast. 2.37 seconds so far in his young career. How many 7-step drops are we expecting? It might be 0. So, I mean, Cleveland's going to be very conservative offensively. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get the ball out of Dillon Gabriel's hands fast. I don't know how much of a factor the edge rushers beating the offensive tackles is going to be. I mean, the interior offensive line for the Browns is fine. They're just going to run the ball on the Dolphins' defensive front. Yes, it puts the Dolphins in an advantageous position in terms of game planning for it, but I don't know if there's a damn thing they could do to stop it. The Dolphins have known their opponents are going to run the ball on them every single game. They still can't stop it. So I'm not suggesting the Browns offense is going to look elite, but I think they can run the ball on Miami, and in the nasty weather, you'd have to say that favors their offense. But the real reason I bet on Cleveland is on the other side of the ball. I mean, what exactly are we expecting the Dolphins offense to do here? I mean, I was already worried about Tua and the Dolphins offense coming into this one before I even knew about the weather. I mean, we know Tua, he's better at home at Hard Rock, struggles against the pass rush, and they're going on the road. This is probably the toughest place for quarterbacks to go play. Cleveland, and are we expecting Miami to run the ball? Cleveland's been elite against the run so far this year. On top of that, we know Tua has a history of struggling in bad weather. Here's the Dolphins offense this year, home away splits. I mean, you could see significant difference from 27 points per game, 6.5 yards per play at home, 5.1 and 17.7 on the road. So yeah, the Dolphins offense is going to be in prison if you ask me. And I think Dillon Gabriel gets his first win. I think the Browns are able to run the ball. I think the nasty weather actually tilts the scales to their favor. I got the Browns early. I'm in at -1.5. So Cleveland up, dog pound. Patriots Titans. This one was at 6. It got as high as 7.5, and it looks like the Titans did finally get hit at the +7 at 30K limits. We're now up to 50K limits. We're looking at a flat 7. So Patriots Titans. Let's talk about it. All right. So I did place a bet on this game. I think the weather might screw me a little bit. So this is another one that I placed the bet before. I placed it on Sunday when the market reopened. So hopefully the weather isn't too bad, because if the weather is somewhat decent, we can count. I'm sure we can count on the Patriots to score some points. The phrase I've said the last few weeks is New England's the best offense in the NFL that nobody's talking about. Now that they've beaten the Bills, I think people are starting to talk about them. But in the last 5 games, this offense is averaging over 27 points per game, 6.5 yards per play, over 52% success rate. It would be difficult to find a quarterback in the NFL right now that's played better than Drake May in the last 5 games. Passer rating looks excellent. He's handled pressure really well. He's handled a clean pocket really well. Drake May playing out of his mind right now. Now, I do want to give a little bit of credit to the Titans defense. They have been better. In their first 3 games, they were allowing over 31 points per game, 6.6 yards per play, success rate up close to 53%. The numbers in the last 3 do look better. Look at the offenses they saw: Houston, Arizona, and Las Vegas. Played the Texans, the Cardinals, and the Raiders, so kind of been a little fortunate. They played 3 bad offenses in a row. The Patriots, most definitely not a bad offense. And this is a Titans defense that's most likely going to be missing both of their edge rushers. Arden Key has been ruled out. Draymond Jones is still listed as questionable, but he hasn't practiced all week. So I don't think either of those guys are going to play. They might be getting Tavondre Sweat back, though. I don't think he's played all year. Maybe, he might have played in the opener. They might be getting Sweat back on the defensive line, so that'd be cool. But in terms of the edge rushers, it looks like they're both going to miss this one. If the weather isn't too bad, the Patriots are going to score in this game. Here's why I don't have a bet on the Patriots. It's the other side of the ball. I got to ask, are we sure this Patriots defense is good? I think this defense might be bad. I mean, on paper, they're probably a bottom 5 or 6 pass defense in the NFL. They're 25th in success rate, 15th in EPA per play. We just saw Spencer Rattler have what was probably the best game of his career last week against New England. Now, statistically, it was actually the second best game of his career, but the best game of his career statistically came. He threw a couple touchdowns late to pad the stats in garbage time when they were getting blown out. The fact that this was a close game, I think you can argue this was the best game of Spencer Rattler's career last week against New England. I was on the Patriots at -2.5. It closed 3.5. I sweat the entire thing. So Spencer Rattler was making throws against this Patriots defense. And if it was just one game, I'd say, all right, whatever. They played a bad game. Spencer Rattler played well. It's been all season. Through the first 6 games of the year, they're allowing a 62.9% success rate per dropback. 62.9%. 8.3 yards per pass attempt. This is a bad pass defense. And I know they played a few games without Christian Gonzalez. He's back now. He's been back for 3 games. It doesn't seem to be improving. They're also dealing with a couple other injuries on the defense, although I think both these guys are going to play. Hawkins and Harold Landry, I think they're both going to play. But I'm not sure if I think this Patriots defense is any good. In fact, I'm pretty sure the pass defense might be bad. Now, look, I get it. It's the Titans. This is a terrible offense. They do have J.C. Latham back finally. Came back last week at right tackle. They're playing this game without Calvin Ridley. But between J.C. Latham and Tajay Spears, they are healthier than they have been for most of the year. So Tajay Spears gives Cam Ward a weapon he could possibly use. Look, I'm not expecting the Titans offense to go off here. I didn't bet Tennessee. What I did bet is the over. Both these teams throw the ball a lot, although Tennessee's probably throwing it because they've spent most of the year down. But the Titans have run at a pretty quick pace. I got this at 41.5. What is it at now? 42.5? Let me look. New England. Yeah, 42.5. I'm assuming the weather is keeping this one from just shooting up. I like the over. I could get screwed on the weather in this one, though. This is a bet I placed. I'm on the over 41.5. Saints, Bears, and Chicago. We've seen nothing but New Orleans money in this one. This one was at 6. It's now down to a flat 4. We're at 50K limits. So let's talk about this matchup, and we'll start with the Chicago Bears. How about it? 3 wins in a row for the Bears, including back-to-back wins with the same exact score, 25-24. I got to say, though, now, I was on the Bears against the Commanders. I was on the Raiders in the one before that. And I got to say about these last 2 wins, Bears fans, you were gifted both of them. I don't think the Bears deserve to win either of those games. Turnovers is how they won those games. Well, let's give Chicago some credit. Back-to-back, 3 wins in a row for this Chicago Bears team. Here's the thing. Despite winning 3 games in a row, I still don't think this is a good defense. In fact, I think this is a pretty bad defense. 29th in success rate, 17th in EPA per play. I think that's pretty on point. Again, I was on the Bears last week against the Commanders, and Washington gifted the Bears a 13-0 lead early with a couple turnovers. From that point on, I was holding on. Washington was so clearly the better team in that game. They barely hung on to win that game. Washington's offense missing their wide receivers, moving the ball up and down the field in the second half of that one. And look, that was just a perfect position for the Bears, too. They were coming off a bye week. Washington was injured. You can't catch the Commanders in a better position than that, and this defense looked bad. They also lost the linebacker in that game. Noah Sewell is out. Jalen Johnson still on the IR as well. Grady Jarrett listed as questionable. We'll have to wait and see if he's able to play. Regardless, I don't think one player, Grady Jarrett, fixes everything here, especially they did get TJ Edwards back last week, but then they lost Sewell. So they got a linebacker back, lost another one. Chicago hasn't shown much of a pass rush this year. They blitz a lot. It's not very successful. Spencer Rattler should have some time to work. Spencer Rattler also has very efficient passing numbers against the blitz so far this year. And we're talking about Spencer Rattler behind a healthy Saints offensive line. In fact, Spencer Rattler with an entirely healthy Saints offense, which he's never had in his career. In fact, Spencer Rattler has only played 2 games all season. Oh, no, not all season. 2 games in his entire career with a healthy offensive line in front of him. Just 2. The 2 games on the road in Buffalo a few weeks back. And if you remember, the Saints were competitive. They covered the number. And then New England, where the Saints could have easily won that game. That was Spencer Rattler, the best game of Spencer Rattler's career. So the 2 times we've seen Spencer Rattler play with an offensive line, with a healthy offensive line, the Saints were competitive. And now Taysom Hill's healthy. Alvin Kamara is healthy. Yeah, I think the Saints offense is going to move the ball. Again, I don't think Chicago's defense is good at all. And the Saints offense has looked better in their last 3 games. It's kind of flying under the radar. No one's really talking about it. But in their last 3 games, in their first 3 games, they averaged just 4.8 yards per play, 15.7 points per game. Look at their last 3. 5.5 yards per play, 50% success rate, over 21 points per game. The Saints offense has looked better, and they're healthier than they have been all year. The Saints are going to move the ball in this game on Chicago. The question is on the other side of the ball. Do you trust the Saints defense to make stops here? Now, not that the Bears offense strikes terror into you. In fact, I don't think this offense is very good, but the Saints defense, man. In fact, I think this is a generous graphic. 21st in success rate, 21st in EPA. I think we all agree this is a bottom 5 defense. By the way, good news for the Bears. I think DeAndre Swift is going to play. He's listed as questionable, but he's been practicing all week. So I think DeAndre Swift's going to play. Darnell Wright is back. He came back last week, I believe. So the Bears offense should be at full strength for this one. In terms of their matchup against the Saints defense, just like the Bears, the Saints blitz a lot, and it doesn't really work. They have a high blitz rate, but don't generate a ton of pressure. They're dead last in time to pressure. Caleb Williams will have clean pockets to throw from in this game. And you know what? On the season, he has had success throwing from those clean pockets. This is the way I feel about this game, I'm pissed. I missed my number. I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I was looking at this game when the market reopened on Sunday night, and I saw Saints +6, and I marked it down. Saints +6. I'm betting this. Went to go grab it, and it dropped to 5.5. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to pull the trigger right now. I'm going to wait and try to grab a 6. I forgot about it. I honestly thought I had bet the Saints. I've been telling people all week I'm on the Saints. I talked about it on the live stream with Sean Green. I was like, yo, I'm on the Saints in this one. It didn't even occur to me until earlier today that I never actually bet the Saints, and now the number's gone. It's at 3.5, 4 now, so I missed the number. I think the Saints could win this game, though. I really think the Saints could win this game. The way I'm looking at it is if Caleb Williams plays a clean game, then, yeah, the Bears probably win this game by a touchdown. But, man, all I need is one mistake. Give me one big mistake from Caleb Williams. Yeah, the Bears are going to score points. They're going to move the ball. I think the Saints can move the ball right back. Wouldn't hate an over here. But, yeah, I think the Saints are live. I think the Saints could end the Bears' winning streak. So maybe I'll put a bet on the Saints' money line for some fun. But as far as placing a profitable wager, the move was to take the Saints at 5.5, 6. And unfortunately, I missed the bus by accident. I thought I had placed the bet, and I never did. So, yeah, I think the Saints are live. My pick for this game is the Saints. Eagles, Vikings. This one got all the way up to 3, but looks like we've been taking Vikings money since then because we're back down to 1.5. We're up to 50K limits at 1.5. All right, so Eagles, Vikings, let's get into it. So Philadelphia has now lost back-to-back games. The backbreaker 14-point blown fourth quarter lead against the Broncos, and then the Thursday night decimation at the hands of the Giants. That wasn't even like, oh, they had a couple bad bounces, couple bad calls. No, the Giants beat up on the Eagles on Thursday night. And it's crazy because not only are the Eagles coming off back-to-back games, but you take into consideration the 2 games before these, the Bucs game and the Rams game. You could say that the Eagles could have 4 consecutive losses. Now, I'm not saying they should have 4 losses. I'm saying the way those games went, I mean, the Rams, you could say they could have lost or maybe should have lost that game with the blocked field goal. But then the Bucs game, remember they had that block punt return for a touchdown and jumped out to an early lead. The Bucs were the better team in the second half. So Eagles not looking too great. They could have lost the last 4 games. Again, I'm not saying they should have lost. I'm saying they could have lost the last 4 games. Philly's in a spot where they need to win. They need to stop the skid. They're now going on the road to play a strong Vikings team that's coming off a bye week. Not the best spot here for the Eagles. But the good news for Philly, Vikings run defense, this is not 2024. This is not the 2024 Vikings run defense. Team's been struggling to stop the run all year. They're 19th in success rate, 25th in EPA per play. And there's some more good news for Philly here is it looks like Landon Dickerson is going to be back. They were missing him on Thursday night against the Giants. He has practiced all week. He hasn't been ruled in or anything, but he's listed as questionable. Friday's practice was an FP, which stands for FP, full participation or full practice? FP, if you look at injury reports, you know what FP is. I don't know if it's full practice or full participation, but yet no limitations on Landon Dickerson in the last practice. So it looks like they'll be getting him back, and they need him. The Eagles need to get this run game going again. Now, the Vikings might also be getting an important piece back on defense. Blake Cashman, he actually hasn't played since the opener. He also registered a couple of FPs this week. So maybe the Vikings getting Cashman back. He hasn't played since September 8th, so I don't know if he'll be on a snap count. I'm not sure. But yeah, Vikings getting a piece back on defense as well. I'm not sure if one linebacker fixes this, though. This Vikings team is getting run on. In their last 2 games, they're allowing over 136 rushing yards per game, over 4.6 yards per carry, over 51% success rate per rush. That's against Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I mean, both were overseas, kind of unique circumstances there. The offense was also banged up in both of these games. But it's not like the Steelers, it's not like these are powerhouse run games or anything. And it's not just these 2 games. This graphic shows 2 games. They've been struggling against the run all year. In my opinion, this is the ultimate buy low spot on the Eagles run game. On Saquon Barkley, the Eagles run game. We're basing our opinion on Saquon Barkley and the Eagles run game right now on the last 3 games, and it's been ugly. 3.3 yards per carry, 69 rushing yards per game, 31% success rate per rush. This is the Eagles. 3.3 yards per carry, 69 rushing yards per game. That's terrible. Take into consideration the circumstances, the Bucs have probably the best run defense in the NFL. The Broncos might have the second best run defense in the NFL. And then the Giants, on a short week without Landon Dickerson, that was the Giants' Super Bowl. I mean, they were resting. They were giving their players limited snaps in the Saints game before that. The Giants put all of their eggs in the basket. That was the Giants' Super Bowl on a short week in MetLife. So what I'm saying is, if you take into consideration the circumstances, it might be the perfect buy low spot on Saquon Barkley. Remember, earlier in the season, this Eagles run game didn't look this bad. In their first 3 games against the Cowboys, Rams, and Chiefs, 4 yards per carry, over 42% success rate per rush, 124 rushing yards per game. And that's kind of crazy if you look at the teams they've played. I mean, the Rams have a strong run defense also. The Eagles have played a lot of strong defensive fronts so far this year. Now, the Vikings have a strong defensive front too, but they've been weak against the run so far this year. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is going to be under pressure. We're talking about Brian Flores and the Vikings. He's sending a million blitzes. They're going to generate pressure. But honestly, Jalen Hurts has been really efficient throwing the ball under pressure so far this year. If he's got run support, I think it's a buy low in the Eagles offense. I think Saquon Barkley might have himself a good game. I think the Eagles are going to move the football in this game. Now, on the other side of the ball, Philadelphia's defense is a concern. Looks a huge step down from the Super Bowl defense we saw second half of last year. Minnesota's offense, what do we even make of this unit? I mean, what do we even, their year-long numbers, I mean, they've been missing offensive linemen. We've seen quarterbacks shifted in and out. Both their running backs are hurt. I mean, what do we even make of this offense? If we're concerned about Philadelphia's defense, we definitely got to be concerned about Minnesota's offense. Look at the injury report for this game. Still no Ryan Kelly at center. Their backup center is actually questionable as well. They might be on their 3rd center, although I think their backup center's been practicing. I forget his name, to be honest, but I think he's practicing. Brian O'Neill listed as questionable, right tackle. J.J. McCarthy, is he back? Do we even want him back? Like, is it a positive to have him back? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the last time we saw J.J. McCarthy starting at quarterback, the Vikings were held to 6 points. It wasn't pretty. He had a 37.5 passer rating in the game, or QB rating. I forget which one that is in this graphic. Certainly didn't play well. That's all that matters. Held onto the ball 3.2 seconds on average. Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw J.J. McCarthy, it didn't look great. The Eagles defense should have Jalen Carter back on the field. They badly needed him in the Giants game. They were losing the line of scrimmage battle to the Giants offensive line. It was on a short week in MetLife. Few extra days rest, although the Vikings are coming off a bye, so they're plenty rested themselves. Jalen Carter's been practicing. I think he's going to be out there. I think it's a buy low on the Eagles. I'm on the Eagles at -1.5. Looks like, oh no, I'm still seeing 1.5. So at the time of recording, I'm still seeing mostly 1.5. I think the Eagles win this one. I'm on the Birds. Panthers Jets in MetLife. Jets actually opened up as short favorites here, -2.5. It's flipped. Carolina's actually a short road favorite here against the Jets. So let's get into this matchup. The Jets were so close to getting one last week overseas against the Broncos. So close. Final score was 11-13. A lot of funny jokes on Twitter about how terrible the game was. It wasn't the NFL's best representation of the product, I'll say that. 13-11. Now, this Carolina offense, all right, this injury report graphic was a nightmare to make. So we'll start with the bad news. Starting left guard Damian Lewis, that's a new injury. I don't think he's going to play. He hasn't practiced all week. So I think they lost an offensive lineman. But Austin Corbett and Taylor Moton have both been practicing all week. Austin Corbett hasn't played all year. Taylor Moton, he missed one. I think he might have missed 2 games. It might just be 1. So they lose the left guard. But I think it looks like they're getting 2 pieces back on the offensive line. So, okay, that's healthier than they were, even though they did suffer a new injury. Little concerning that I think Damian Lewis has been their best offensive lineman so far this year. So, or one of their best. He's been very good for them. and a big reason for their recent success running the ball. So, okay, they're a little bit healthier on the offensive line. Jalen Coker looks like he might be back. He's listed as questionable. He hasn't played all year either. So they might be getting a wide receiver back. Chuba Hubbard has been removed from the injury report and is back. So they get their RB back. Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, I believe he's back as well. So the Panthers offense, way healthier than they have been in the last few weeks. Still missing some pieces, but way healthier. And this Jets defense, they have some injuries of their own. Michael Carter's going to miss this game, and the same two linebackers that have been out. So the Jets defense has some holes in it, especially at the linebacker position. Now, when it comes to the Panthers offense, I know we're all loving it, right? We're all loving it. I was on the over last week against Dallas. Thank you, Panthers, for contributing to that. We're loving the run game with Rico Dowdle, right? In their last two games, 7 yards per carry, over 230 rushing yards per game, over 55% success rate per rush. Elite rushing numbers in the last two games. Can we at least point out that they played the two worst run defenses in the NFL, the Dolphins and the Cowboys? This is great to see, Carolina, but it was 2 home games against the 2 worst run defenses in the NFL. The Jets defense hasn't been great, don't get me wrong, and they're injured at the linebacker position, but that defensive line still has talent on it, and they're miles above where the Dolphins and Cowboys are in terms of defending the run. They're actually 5th in success rate per rush this year, the Jets defense. So again, I don't think the Jets defense is good, but compared to the Cowboys and the Dolphins, the Jets defensive front 7 is a giant step up in competition for this Carolina defensive front. And by the way, they're on the road. We'll get to that in a second. But we're singing the praises of this Panthers offense for running the ball, right? Like, the run game's working. They're steamrolling teams. It was against the Dolphins and Cowboys. And speaking of the Dolphins and Cowboys, want to know who else played those two teams and was running the shit out of the ball, just like the Panthers were? The Jets. They played the Dolphins and the Cowboys also. They averaged 6.8 yards per carry, 171 rushing yards per game. So the Panthers' newly found rushing success, it becomes less impressive when you look and see the Jets did the same damn thing. So I think we should pump the brakes on Carolina having elite run game. They played the 2 worst run defenses in the NFL. The Jets had similar rushing numbers when they played those two teams. That's all. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, look, I know this Jets offense is bad, and looking at this graphic, you might think, Carolina can shut these guys down. I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with that. The Jets offense is certainly not good, and they're most likely missing their best offensive weapon. Garrett Wilson is officially listed as doubtful, so probably not going to see him out there. So how can we expect the Jets to move the ball? Well, remember, this game is at MetLife, and you might think, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this Carolina Panthers defense has been a completely different animal on the road. Remember, the Panthers are 3-0 at home. They're 0-3 on the road. And at home, they've played 3 good defensive games. On the road, they've played 3 bad defensive games. On the road, they're allowing 31.7 points per game, 6.6 yards per play, over 47% success rate. And if you're thinking, maybe the Panthers play tougher opponents on the road. Absolutely not. On the road, they play Jacksonville, Arizona, New England, compared to Atlanta, Miami, Dallas at home. You could argue they actually played stronger offenses at home. This Panthers defense has been terrible. The Panthers have not been a good team on the road this year. They're 0-3, and it's not just the defense. Bryce Young has also played like shit on the road. In his 3 road games, he has a 74.5 passer rating. He hasn't handled the pressure well, hasn't handled a clean pocket well. I don't know how we could take the Panthers as a favorite on the road the way they've played on the road so far this year. I'm honestly considering betting the Jets. I haven't bet it yet, but I can get a +1.5. Give me Jets +1.5. You know what? You have my word. I'll bet it. Give me the Jets. Colts Chargers, and we've been seeing some Chargers money here. It was at 1, bought up to 1.5. We're now up to 2.5 at 50K limits. It looks like the Chargers got hit pretty hard at 1.5. So, yeah, we got money coming in on the Chargers as at the time of recording. Obviously, things could change. So, let's talk about the matchup. Look, this Chargers offense is broken right now. The injuries to the offensive line, it looks like they're going to have their 4th and 5th offensive tackles out there again with the injuries. I get it. The Chargers offense is a mess right now. I've picked against the Chargers in 4 straight weeks. So, you're preaching to the choir. I know the Chargers offense can't be trusted. Here's the thing. I don't think the Colts defense is good. Take a look at the Colts defensive game log so far this season. First of all, there's not many great defensive games here. The only game where they played a sound defensive game was against the Titans in week 3. Other than that, this defense hasn't been very good. But look deeper than that. Look at the opponents. Miami at home, Tua is terrible on the road. That offense is always bad on the road. Denver, That offense hasn't been good all year. Tennessee, worst offense in the league. The Rams, there's a good offense. Well, the Rams were moving the ball extremely efficiently in that game. They had a 58% success rate in the game. The Rams had no problems moving the ball in this Colts defense. So the only time they saw a good offense, they had no problems moving the ball. After that, they played the Raiders at home, the Cardinals at home with a backup quarterback, and they almost lost the game. So this Colts defense, they don't even have good numbers. They played an extremely easy schedule on top of that. I don't think this Colts defense is very good. And again, I get it. This Chargers offense is a mess. I'm not sugarcoating that. The injuries to the running back position, again, they got their 4th and 5th offensive tackles on there. It's really tough to rely on this Chargers offense. But this Colts defense, they're missing Charvarius Ward. Kenny Moore's listed as questionable. I don't think the Colts can stop the run. They don't have much of a pass rush. I think the Chargers are going to move the ball in this game. I don't trust the Colts defense at all. Now, what the Colts can do, the aspect of the Colts that I do trust, is the run game. In fact, you could probably say the Colts have the best rushing attack in the NFL right now, with the Ravens going through what they're going through, with the Eagles having a slow start. I think you could say the Colts have the best run game in the NFL. They're actually first in success rate. So I believe a lot more in what the Colts are doing offensively than on the defensive side of the ball. In fact, I think the defense is about to fall off. They're playing a Chargers defense that struggled against the run. I mean, look at their last 3 games. They're allowing over 5 yards per carry, 43.7% success rate per rush, over 153 rushing yards per game. So why would we trust this Chargers defense against the Colts run game? Well, it looks like they're getting their best 2 defensive players back, Denzel Perryman and Khalil Mack. They're still listed as questionable, but the Chargers have officially taken them off IR. So it looks like the Chargers are getting those are the best 2 players on the defense. They've been out a few weeks. So Perryman and Khalil Mack back changes everything for this Chargers defense. And I think we really need to have the conversation. And the conversation I'm referring to is, I think it's time we sell our Daniel Jones stock. We're seeing the turnover-worthy throws start to spike the last 3 games. He's been putting the ball in harm's way. He's a guy that's been dinking and dunking against bad defenses all year. Now he's flying out to the West Coast to play a Chargers defense that's actually first in the NFL in passer rating allowed via the short pass. Over 51% of Daniel Jones' pass attempts are short passes. Chargers are not a defense that'll let you dink and dunk. I think it might be time to sell our Daniel Jones stock. Look at his game log so far this year. Where are the impressive data points? He played well at home against Denver. Yeah, that was a pretty good game. Although I will say Jonathan Taylor did most of the damage in that one. But still, solid data point against the Broncos. Other than that, where's the impressive games here for Daniel Jones? The only respectable defense he saw was the Rams, and that was by far his worst game. He threw 2 picks that ended up costing the team. I really think it's time we sell our Daniel Jones stock, and this is a Chargers team I'm pretty confident on. I've actually picked correctly every single week. I picked the Chargers in the first 2. I picked them against the Chiefs, and I picked them against the Raiders. They won and covered in both. Then I took Denver +3, which pushed in week 3. Since then, I've taken the Giants, the Commanders, and the Dolphins, and I've been right all 3 times. I'm 5-0-1 ATS in Chargers games so far this year. I think this is a buy low. I think this is when you play on the Chargers. Give me Chargers -1.5. I haven't bet it yet, but I think I might. I only have like 5 bets open at the moment. I think I'm going to add a couple. Tough week for NFL in terms of betting. It should be fun to watch, but tough week for betting. I was having trouble finding angles. All right, it's almost 3 a.m., so I got to speed this up. Commanders, Cowboys. I'm on Washington money line here. I know there's still injuries to the wide receiver position for Washington, and I probably mistimed it. I got the money line at +100. I don't think the Cowboys defense is going to make a single stop here. And last week, if you remember, I took the Bears against Washington on Monday Night Football. I was just talking about this when I was talking about the Bears game. The Washington gifted Chicago a 13-0 lead. From then on, in the second half, the Bears had no answer. They could not stop Jaden Daniels and this Commanders offense. And the Bears defense is better than the Cowboys defense. In fact, it's much better than the Cowboys defense. I don't think the Cowboys defense makes a single stop in this game. And look, on the other side, Dak Prescott is playing out of his mind. But my thoughts on the Cowboys offense, I feel like everyone's looking at the Cowboys offense and they're getting players back from injury. CeeDee Lamb's back. The offensive line is healthier. And I think people are looking at the Cowboys offense thinking, oh, they're healthier. That means they're going to play better. But I disagree because personally, I think the Cowboys offense has been overperforming. So I don't think they could play any better than that. I think we've seen the Cowboys offense best fastball the last 3 weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys offense takes a step backwards here. We haven't seen a Dak interceptions game. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Washington does have a pass rush. I think all the Commanders are going to need in this one is a couple of stops, and they should be in control of the game. So, yeah, I think Washington wins that one. I'm on the Commanders. Giants, Denver, I think the Broncos blow them out. In fact, I'm thinking about you shouldn't do Wong teasers. They're dead. You can't get them anymore. The Wong teaser, it was a fun era. It's over. But Green Bay and Denver, both -1, might be a Wong teaser opportunity. In fact, I might place that for fun. I like the Packers to win via blowout. I like the Broncos to win via blowout. I haven't bet either of them, but I might put down a Wong teaser. They'll probably make me pay -128 for it because those are dead. But yeah, I like those two. And then Atlanta, San Francisco. I took the 49ers early. I got it at a terrible number. I thought the Bills were going to beat up on the Falcons. But obviously the Falcons look great against Buffalo. But flying across the country, although San Francisco's flying across the country too. They were just in Tampa. But flying across the country on the West Coast, coming off the Falcons' best game of the year. Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw the Falcons go on the road, they were beaten 30-0 by the Panthers. So 49ers, yes, Mac Jones is playing, but he looks pretty good. And other than that, they're actually healthier than they have been. Well, actually, there's still some injuries to the secondary. But, yeah, I like the way the 49ers played against the Bucs. The Bucs played pretty well, and the 49ers gave them a game. Before that, they went into L.A. and beat the Rams. So I like the 49ers, and I like that game. Actually, screw that. I was thinking over. Just 49ers in that one. So I like San Francisco in the late game. Sorry to have to cut it short. Ran out of time, and my editor couldn't work today. I forget what he's doing. He's doing something. So I had to make this whole video myself. Didn't have any editing help. So, yeah, thanks, everyone, for watching. As always, starting next week, we'll be back to the Sunday morning live shows because I don't believe there's an overseas game. Remember, everything's posted on KyleKirms.com. I'll be in the Discord watching the games if you want to come hang out. Let's have ourselves a good one. Thanks for watching. Bet responsibly.